Assessment. Where do you get the marks? Well, you get the marks in about 4 different places. Quizzes. The required topics each have a quiz. And I think there's about 6 of them. Each quiz closes when the tutorial opens. We've been through that. The total number of marks is scaled to 15. Right? So it's not the average, because the average Excel spreadsheet counts a blank, or does not count a blank in the average and simply takes the average of the ones you've done. No, a blank is a 0. So you get total marks and scale up to 15. Elective topics. You get to choose 2, any 2, I don't mind which 2, and answer the quizzes for 2 of them, and they scale to 10. So basically you get more marks per quiz for the elective topics than you do for the required topics, and that's okay. You can do more than 2 elective topics. I'll take the best 2 marks. So the major assignment. Having learned all the steps on a small problem, now we put it all together in a bigger problem. In the major assignment, work in teams 4 to 6, maximum 6 people. The reason for 6 is that is becoming pretty much an industry standard size team. It's as many people as can work usefully together. More than that, somebody hasn't got enough to do. Somebody floats and freeloads through the subject, and we don't like that. I don't like that, and teams don't like that. Now in teams, you develop part of an architecture for a participative marking scheme. Now I've had this assignment around for some years, and I thought it'd be a really good thing to try to develop. So here is a start in trying to develop it. Teams will pick a part of the entire problem and develop the architecture of that part. So they may develop the architecture for the markers, or the architecture for the subject coordinator, or the architecture for the student's client, basically. And we'll see how that problem can be broken up, because there could be a server part, a coordinator client. We'll see how to do it. But that then means that teams are going to have to collaborate to form a complete architecture, and that should be interesting fun. Now, your team will produce a report for your part of the architecture that you developed, but that report also has to pay attention to the other parts of the system as well. That major assignment is usually worth, I've forgotten how many marks it's worth, 20 I think. A reasonable number. Now each week of the major assignment there will be peer reviews. Now in this, your team will present to another team who will review your work. This could be any other team. They might be doing the same thing as you, or might be doing something completely different. But as architects, they should be able to critique your work, and you should be able to critique their work. Okay? Now, the rules of the game is that you must turn up, you must submit a review. So you have to do a critique. That review must rate the particular architecture part, component, or diagram on some criteria which will be part of the review criteria. And you give them a mark out of 5. You also have to write a comment justifying your mark. Now, if you don't submit comments, or your comments are meaningless, and you does not demonstrate any understanding of the topic, then you don't get any marks. Right? So you have to show that you understand what you're talking about in order to get marks for what your group did in your presentation. Now that system works pretty well. I usually find it takes a couple of weeks for people to wake up and find out that I'm serious and start submitting some meaningful reviews. The exam. Now this should be good this year, because last year, essentially while the exam was on, I suddenly realized what it should be. The exam has 2 parts. Now one part should be you should be able to demonstrate your basic competence. That is, You know enough about software architecture to be employed in a software architecture team, and you can do something useful. So if somebody says, here's some requirements, go to a conceptual architecture, you should be able to do that. Or if they say, here's a conceptual architecture, do a sequence diagram for this particular scenario, you should be able to do that. So that's the kind of thing that will be in the first part. Just a demonstration of your competence and suitability to be employed as a software architect. The second one should enable you to demonstrate your expertise, your virtuosity, your genius, or whatever it is. Okay? So that will be more in the way of solving an architectural problem. So it's not given something, do something else. It's given a problem, solve it, architecturally solve it. And that's where you're going to get the high distinctions and the distinctions. So that will be the second part of it, and its intention is to demonstrate that you can work unsupervised. You can be the lead architect. All right, so that was 20 marks. Now, how to do well in this subject. From long experience, how to do well in this subject is the same as pretty much anything else. Turn up, do the work, engage with the subject. Just like getting fit, go to the gym, do something. Turn up to class, turn up tutorials, engage with the discussion, contribute to your group's presentation or your group's work, and contribute to the assignment. In general, the marking criteria is based on a scale of 1 to 5. 3 is basic competence. Whatever you've done will work. It may not have solved the, you may have simply supplied an answer that may not be what was asked, but what you've done will actually work. Don't know how you got it, but it will work. That's basic competence. If it won't work, that's less than competence, that's a 2, and if it's barely there, then it's a 1, and obviously if you don't do anything, then it's 0. But 3 is basic competence. Now, industry wants answers that demonstrably address the problem that you got in the first place. So in order to get a 4 out of 5, you must show how what you've done meets the requirements of it. So if it's conceptual architecture, what are the requirements of a conceptual architecture? Do the conceptual architecture and then describe how that conceptual architecture meets its requirements. If you've done an execution architecture, do that. If you've done a documentation, what are the requirements of documentation? Now, let's have a look at your documentation. Now, tell me how that documentation meets the requirements of a software architecture documentation. Okay? So that's 4 out of 5. 5 out of 5, you must be able to demonstrate deep understanding. Okay? Now, you can take Elon Musk for that expression because it comes from somebody asked him, how do you know when you're dealing with an expert? And his answer was, they can usually explain something in depth. So, this is a pretty good answer. If you can demonstrate a deep understanding of whatever it is, then that's worth 5 out of 5. Now, there are usually 2 ways of doing this. One is by demonstrating step by step how the answer could not have been any different. Any variation to that answer would have diminished the answer. That's one way. The second way is to provide 1 or 2 alternatives to that answer and to discuss why those alternatives, although feasible, did not suit the conditions of the problem. That is, the answer you provided is the best answer because these other answers would not work. Right? So it takes a lot of work to demonstrate deep understanding, and that's deliberate. It can't be simply a 2-line or 1-paragraph answer, or 1 paragraph, we could have done it through a microservices architecture, but we decided not to because it doesn't suit the problem. That doesn't demonstrate a deep understanding. So that's software architecture for 2017. It's building on, 9 years of experience, or this is the 9th year of running it, and it seems to be working reasonably well. So welcome to the subject, and I hope you enjoy it.